Okay,
Yes.
well, I will go ahead and call us to order.
Yes.
This is the quarterly property and services committee meeting. I'm Tammy Kemp, board chair.
Georgie McNamara, staff.
George Mitchell, board.
Holcomb staff.
Dan White, staff.
Kristen Yates, staff. Tracy Knox, staff.
Robin Myers, staff.
Amanda George, staff.
Susan Portmeyer, board.
And I
Teddy Rowland, board.
Let's see, I see Marvin, I see Lindy, I see Roger, Jillian Braun, Georgie, Teddy, Jillian Rainingbird, Melinda Barnett, Shannon, and Ed, and Kristen. So thank you all for being here. We'll jump right into it with Marvin's report.
Hey, everyone. We'll start with 8511. This is our quarterly facility.
Marvin, we can't hear you.
Oh, let's see. Why can't you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? No?
Yep.
You can?
No,
I can. Roger, you can hear me?
Yes, sir. Probably there.
The room can't hear me?
Jillian, this is Jillian Rainybird. I
Anyone
can
have
hear
any
you as
idea?
well. I put a note in the chat, so hopefully they can see it.
You have to get to it.
Well, hang on. I can solve this.
So it's a select speaker, maybe something in there.
Oh, so nice.
I've been having so much problems with it. Half the people from today. Yeah. I'm trying to see.
I mean, it says it. Did somebody else out there say something?
Yes.
Shannon?
Hi.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Hi.
well.
Hi.
Same audio issue.
Try turning on my audio to see if it can go through my computer or will it echo? Oh, and like,
We can try.
Sorry, guys, we're having technical difficulties on this end. Just bear with us.
No, it's gonna be mine. Can anybody, how about Shannon or anybody out there say something?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All right, Marvin.
Back again.
Yes.
We'll start with 8511. It's listed as general maintenance and if needed. We're preparing for the roof replacement here. As soon as we can get the material in and get the roofers lined up. I'm waiting any day for the word that they're gonna bring the materials in so we get this roof replaced on this building. We've been doing our outside lighting repairs. Not too bad, really. I had a whole strip out across the street, so I'm hopefully waiting for it to get dark to see if what I did today works. So we'll see that. Dot, I've got several out down at Dot. Well, I've got the electricians already called. They're gonna have to bring the pole trucks in and stuff. I don't know if there's a bank out. Sometimes down there we'll get wearing in the wires and they'll rub through and it'll take a whole line out and they have to pull wire through the pole. And so we'll see if that's the case, and if not, then maybe they just relamp and go on. It's weird, but we usually when we go in to relamp something, we'll do it all because we don't want to, 3 days later, we've got more bulbs out. And sure in the heck, it's the first time I've ever noticed there's like 6 bulbs out all at the same time. I thought, well, heck, I've got a breaker blown or something. It was the bulbs. They all flew out at the same time. So you don't get that kind of length out of them, but it was good to see that it wasn't more than just light bulbs. Jade has got the, backup power supply finally worked out down at Dot. We were having a heck of a time with it just randomly beeping and throwing the DVR into a mess, and they got it all worked out now. So that's good. A lot less false alarms and calls in the middle of the night. Roger can attest to that. Blue Springs office, we replaced the front battery and the door power assist. They're back in the old days, we used to hardwire everything. Now everything is battery powered, remote this, and that. And so we replaced the batteries and got all that working again. Took the dead tree out of the front. We had a nice dead tree right out front next to our for sale sign. So we went ahead and made sure and remove that ground stone. That's not the first. The second thing you see after you look at the for sale sign would be the dead tree. It's gone. Skip on to Rainbow 2. We had a call about lights not working after the rain, and old T12 technology with the magnetic electronic ballast in them, humidity, when the bulbs start to go, they lose their efficiency and humidity affects them, and you'll get that. We gotta put the light switch a few times to get them to come on, and it's just maddening. The way you get around that is to upgrade to a T8 bulb, of course, where you're using more of electronic, not so much of a magnetic balance, but more of an electronic ballast. And so trying to work with the maintenance guy over there, because Curtis is a real good ally for us, and he does good work, except we're not so sure that he understands the T8, T12 technology, because sometimes we find T12s and T8 ballasts kind of intermingling, and they'll work at first, but they won't work very long. So we're trying to just get in, work with Curtis on that building to make sure that we get all the lights and what they need, and future maintenance with Curtis, work with him when we get the lights burning. We need to, I don't know how we're going to do it, but the front of that building has a stone facade. There's a lot of tuck point missing deep into that stone facade. So we need to force it in there. You just can't go in there and like jab it in. You really have to shoot this. So we went looking for a Gunite gun. It's used to use it in old railroad trestles and tunnels and stuff, and it literally just forcefully blows a concrete solution. And we've not had any luck finding it. I think the technology is gone, but we need some. I mean, this rock is, it's not like your stone wall, flat, nice, or even kind of above. This is jagged edges rock, like they stacked them. So that's somewhere trying to get settled before we get the freezing thaw of the winter coming through. And then, of course, general maintenance is needed. Independence job 1, we got the hand washing sinks put in, the new electronic touchless state-of-the-art gizmos, and they're real nice. Everybody seems to like them. Had quite the crowd huddled around them using them after we got them started. Everybody had to have a shot. And for a while, people had some really clean hands because they were free and cool visitors to each spot. But that's what we were wanting. Money well spent, and we should get a lot of long year use out of them. The old ones had gone so past, we cobbled them for so many years that finally the price to repair them was as much, if not, than to replace them. So, and we went a little bit above and beyond by putting the electronic sensors in there. Everything else was either a push button or a foot button. And now you just can walk up, and we had to adjust them because if you walk by, it would squirt water. Kind of had to adjust those down, but I got it done. And because, you know, the right person found out that that's how it works. They tend to walk by all the time. So I just stood there and smiled. I was like, we'll take care of that. So we've got the various AC issues fixed, and we installed a phase monitor on one of the units. The phase monitor is recognizing the 3-phase that comes in off of the city power grid and comes through there on a 3-phase to 2-stage. Without getting too technical, there's 2 of everything in this unit because it's so big, and this 3-phase power is needed to get your 110, your 220, your 208, your 270 In other words, the higher voltages, you need the 3-phase. Well, it was kicking one of the phases out and kept blowing the same fuses on and on. So we would get this call that, hey, my thermostat's dead. It is, because the whole unit's dead now. So we finally, no one could just pinpoint what the problem is. So I got a whole group of guys together from different companies, and they all came to the agreement of the same thing. We put a phase monitor on this unit to see what's happening, causing this phase to drop out and to blow the fuses. Since we put it on there, we've not had any problems, of course. The benefit of this phase monitor is that we can remove it from this unit and use it on any other unit that we have. So since we're paying for that install, I've taken control over where that unit goes so that it stays with ETOS. And then if we need it, no matter what company it is, can install that phase monitor on any of our units, if indeed we have that problem again. At Yuma, they had a Ballard. Ballard is a light post that sticks out of the ground. It's mainly for downlighting or to light a sidewalk or something like that. And in our case, they were more decorative than anything else. And they had one, they said, well, it's falling over. It's just falling over. And so the idea is that, well, we really don't need them. So we just removed them all, filled the holes, terminated the wires. We had an electrician come out and put a ground box in there and terminate. So in the future, if they ever wanted to put something, or we wanted to put something back out in the front of that building, the wires are there to do it. And then I have to pull all the wires and all that good stuff. But it took care of the Ballard's problem out front. We replaced the flush valve diaphragms in 4 of their urinals, and adjusted the lights in the office because they were too bright. I won't go into that. Grandview job 1, we have on here, had the plumber go out and serve a system for water temperature issues. We'll go all by that. Thanks to Tom, we went ahead and got a hot water heater, a tankless hot water heater, put into that building, which now gives them set it and forget it. You can set the water temperature on that unit and it'll control the temperature of the entire building. Before, they had done some work 12, 14 years ago. We did a remodel in that kitchen, and the water at the kitchen sink was not tempered. Of course, when you're teaching life skills, you need the sink water, and especially to be tempered. So that's all taken care of, and they're really liking it a lot. I like it a lot. I like the tankless hot water heaters in our environment because you get a lot. And then there's not a lot of use in that building anyway. But it's a good installation, and I think down the road, the water unit in there was over 35 years old. So you get your money's worth out of a lot of that. It's ready to go. And we've had the east door on the blue building, or the workshop, I call it the blue building. We had that replaced last week. It had, like so many of our steel doors that have been sitting in salt and ice melts for years, pretty well disintegrated the bottom of it and the frame. So that was replaced a couple weeks ago, I believe. We're moving to southeast, replaced 2 flush valves, unclogged drain, replaced both faucets in a hand washing station up front. Have Greg's Lock and Key came out. They were having all kinds of key issues. I think a lot of it is when you cut copies off the copies, pretty soon your copy's not that good. So they've got that all taken care of. They did start on the window project yesterday. And they're having a heck of a time doing it. Last I checked, about 3:30 this afternoon, they had taken a piece of glass out, 1 out of 14, and put the new one in, and it was the wrong size. So at that point, I just kind of hung my head and walked over to the truck and said, well, figure out what you're going to do and let us know. They're coming back first thing in the morning to start going on the rest of the glass. So this has been over a year in the making. We're just glad to see some movement in the lift, and I'm just happy to see it. And we did, let's see, what is it? We did measure the S on the front of the building today. Remember our conversation we had about the S on the front of the building?
Yeah, it's broken, right?
Yeah, the S, okay. So we measured it today. We're gonna get an S on there.
Jeff's gonna be out, southeast.
I think it was the second S, wasn't it?
No.
Was it the
The
first?
last S.
Yeah, the second.
No. So to be enterprise, not to enterprise, I have that S, but in the, it's tailed off. So we measured to get the S, I'm just gonna go to, fast sign, we have an account there, I'm just gonna have them get me a brown one and we're gonna surprise them and put them on there. We're gonna try to do it. Nobody knows and see how long it takes. You have to have a little fun. We're going on to Blue Valley now. The plumbing issues in various parts of the building, we've been chasing this thing for months. And finally, we believe, found a clog about 60 feet into the main drain. So what we've been doing was this monster is sitting there and growing, and his little minions have been working their way into pipes and it clogged this drain up. So we're chasing this minion down in here, and finally we just said, you know what, there's gotta be something more. And he went down in there, and at 60 foot, he hit something and pushed it on through the building. We've not had any more problems yet. Now, I don't know if this is real wood or not, and I don't knock on it, but I'm just saying that so far, I mean, we were having a clogged drain call every other day. To like every 3 days. And it would be in those situations where it looks like it's just gonna drop, the whole shop's gonna flood. And then we call the plumbers, everybody's moving, and when they get there, it's gone. There's no nothing. They're running augers, they're running cameras, they're running everything, but never to 60 feet. So finally, it's like, hey, you gotta go all the way out to the end of the other end of the building where you see it flopping out on the ground. I don't care, but we need to go.
So we're getting charged for each of those calls.
I'm sorry?
We're getting charged for each of those calls.
And Blue Valley, right? The first 250?
No, I've got a deal worked out with those guys. We never, when I make a call, but you gotta be real conscious about what time you're calling, if it's in overtime and all of that stuff, but I got worked out with them where there's no real, you're talking about the 250 deductible back to the agency?
Yeah, so every time the clock, didn't they get charged too?
Yes, if
Yeah.
they're the clogged reason for it, yeah. And if we go in and we're discovered that we had a collapsed line or something that was part of the building's reasoning for those clogs, then we've never ever back charged an agency. We just go in there and grin and bear it and take care of it. And over the years, there's been some times that we've grinned and bared it. But that's the nature of it. We're in old buildings, old pipes. But we did get to see in the pipes and everything, and they look like 40-year-old cast iron pipes. But we haven't had any more clogs. That's the bottom line, the outcome I was looking for. That's where we're headed. Fixed an issue with the door not catching secured parts, and that's been repaired from Grace. We had some worn out door parts. They wear out and don't mesh up, and that's what was happening. So we got all that repaired. We still have an AC on the roof that was leaking Freon, and I had stop leak put in it, and we've not had more problems with it. People would think that, well, wintertime, you don't need AC. Yeah, we do. We use AC year round in buildings for different areas and stuff. So went ahead and got the stop leak put in it, and hopefully that's gonna suffice. The parts are not available. So that's the thing we've run into a lot here lately, is the parts are not available. So now if we replace anything, we make sure there's parts available for anything down the road, especially if there's warranty work. DPI independence. Tim Connor repaired the issue with a sorting thermostat. They replaced the thermostat and a low voltage contact on the split unit. They have split units that sit on the ground. So they've got all that taken care of, and that's going to help tremendously with their cold spots in there. The DPI KC Schindler fixed the elevator, and just the other morning I got another Schindler, another elevator service call from DPI. Britton called me, and what's happening is they're having power surges and outages downtown. I don't know where downtown. Something's causing it to go in and hit that high voltage that runs that elevator and kicking the leg out. We had to call service, they came out, reset it, replaced the fuse, and they're back and running. So we're not sure where we're getting this influx of power at downtown. It's happened twice now. And it's not really affecting Blue Valley, it's just affecting that elevator. Well, that's gonna be the highest voltage. I don't know what equipment they have upstairs, but that's one of the higher voltage usage that we have in the building is that elevator. That's very high voltage.
When you say downtown Independence? Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm sorry, downtown, DPI downtown Kansas City,
Oh.
1608 Prospect Suite A.
Their elevators, they use it.
Yeah. There you go. Ability KC, general maintenance, we did have a repair that we did on the roof on an HVAC. I thought at first it had been shot, but it was just a loose reader valve. We've had several instances of, munitions rounds going through the roof, our units, the front of the building. It's a good time down there. Anyway, so we were just lucky that there was no stolen. We're right next to the bus station, and that building, the roof of the building from the ground in the corner is about 10 foot.
And they have a tree that people can climb to get up there.
And I've cut the world out of that tree. I've cut that tree so much that they get up there and they'll swing over on it, trying to get over on the roof. I find all kinds of paraphernalia. I found wallets, underwear, just a myriad of things on that roof. And over the years, like I said, we trim the trees and do what we can, add more lights. They tear the lights down. We put lights in steel cages. They're still there. But they took all of our ballards and everything and recycled them. I found them down at the recycling center down off of 14th Street. They wouldn't give them back to me, but they were pretty damaged when I saw them. But they were clearly ours. But you know, they have cleaned that place up down there. The homeless gives them a world of hurt down on that facility. I mean, with the mission being up on the hill and the bus station being next door and the way things are laid out, I know it's a full-time job for them to keep that place clean. And last time I was down there last week, it was looking pretty good. So for what they deal with, hey, doing pretty good. Nolan Manor, we had I wasn't even aware of this until we got the report afterwards. That bad wiring causing the fan to run continuously. Their maintenance guy, I guess, had already fixed it. My only concern, why I'm even bringing it up, is that the fire hazard. Could be a fire hazard with that, because we don't know, we don't have any trace of who did the work in the house. It wasn't anything that was already there. It's something they had replaced. But we, the fire system works. Remember the fire we had in that house? Remember that fire system works. That's just what brings that up. So we dealt with that fire already. So anyway, that's my report. If you have any questions, be glad to answer anything you got. I know we're going through our fall, making sure, because if we get hit hard with the freeze and stuff, but we're already down. But we don't need any broken pipes and that stuff. So I've been going around reminding people, unhooking hoses and hiding some, because I know some get put right back on, and that's fine, but yeah, we just don't need any.
I wanted to add that Robin and Marvin have partnered, so Robin's keeping an Excel tracker of all the maintenance requests, and then she called all the providers today and plans to do that once a month for a little while to make sure that we're all on the same page and have the same understanding about what was fixed, what still needs to be fixed. If they had any questions, and a couple of them had questions, and so Robin got answers for them. And I think that, them knowing that someone in the office is calling to make sure everything's okay is helpful. And Marvin didn't know that when we were over at Blue Valley that there was a place where he had patched the floor, and And that's all they asked us to do, so we thought we were done, but when we went on the tours, we found out that they thought we were gonna do the whole building, and it was a miscommunication. So I think that follow-up, like, is everything okay? You did get fixed all right, is gonna be really important for our relationships.
Line of communication. All right.
So, thinking about Nolan Manor, so the wiring that was, that thing that was fixed, they can't tell you who fixed it. They can give you a receipt, so that way we know, and who we call.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't ask for a receipt.
I mean, I'm just, if I paid for something, especially, when we talk about CDB, they should have a receipt about who paid.
I would hope so,
Right, so somebody over there should tell us who fixed it, so we have an idea. So, if you're worried about a fire, and you're talking about wiring, and you're in that house. I want to fix it, we can make sure it's fixed right.
Are you concerned that it was fixed by their internal maintenance people who might not be certified electricians? Is that what I was actually hearing, or not?
Yes,
Is there something in the lease that states that if they make their repairs, and they have to let us know who did X, Y, and Z?
The lease is silent on many issues, and
That's what
that's
one of them.
only one of them.
We really feel like the vagueness of the lease makes for a lot of confusion and hard feelings when we say, hey, we're not paying for that.
Right.
So what we really need is, I mean, obviously no lease or contracts can cover everything, but a lot more clarity for our providers and for Marvin on what is our responsibility.
Sure, like something basically like saying, we as a landlords are responsible for these things here. You as the tenant are responsible for these things. And you have any questions, call us.
When we send out the new leases, we're working with the attorney to get the lease made more specific in a lot of ways.
They're being reviewed by the attorney. Right?
Good. All right, if there's no questions from the gallery, thank you, Marvin.
thank you.
We will go on to quarterly services reports. Who wants to go first?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Can we take just one moment, please? I want to share that one. Okay. Sorry. I'll get it up there. I just have to find my mouse.
That's okay. The grace is the G in gentle, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think this is still gonna. Yeah. All right, so Tracy is up first. We haven't had a report from Tracy in so long.
Well,
In person, live.
here I
Great.
am. So I'm having difficulty with switching between the report that we used to give that you would just read through and actually doing a presentation. So I'm thinking next time, I may share the outcome data with you separately. I did include it in this and that way you'll have it. Because I was excited, we actually have some outcome data now. So for anyone who doesn't know, we've been through this process of developing new outcomes with the agencies. It started in the early part of the year and it's been a labor of love, I'll say.
Labor. Labor.
to get to this point. There are still some struggles with reporting the information. I've identified a couple of training issues that I think are going to work out in the fall with doing a couple of just quick trainings with agencies. I'm still finding that the agencies that do the best with the outcomes are those accredited agencies. They're used to program performance and organizational development and changes. And so I've been having a lot of fun trying to get it all figured out with several agencies. I also am looking to hire a person that, will replace my, Sarah Valentino, who, went on to bigger and better things. And so I'm looking at changing the position a little bit to work not only with the funded agencies, but also support the effort in the area on advocacy networks, self-advocacy networks, People First, and other efforts that are made. My hope is that agency relations will be a partnership between the agencies and the people supported, and the people supported will have their voice heard when it comes to services that they want and need. And so I'm hoping that that person will then also work with our agencies to really consider, are we listening to the voices of the people? Are we doing the services that they want and the way they want them done? Looking at hopefully hiring someone with a disability, or maybe a parent that has that lived experience. Really want somebody that understands what it's like, and can kind of put that into make it make sense for people. I think the lived experience makes a big difference.
Just tell me when you want another slide.
Well, I'm looking here. So as far as the outcomes go, I did notice a few things. The data, they struggle to get submitted. And sometimes it's getting confused. So I'm hoping that what I provide you tonight will be or what I provide tonight is the information that Lake COA goes with the data, goes with the outcomes. But I'm going to be meeting with each of the agencies now to reflect on the outcomes, kind of think about how we're doing, some things that I've noticed with the information and what we can do about that. So there's some agencies that are struggling with some outcomes, and then there's some that are just like have it all down, you know. So that's something that I'll be working with them on.
What's the biggest struggle?
I think change is hard. I think they're now at a point where they're writing outcomes. It's going to change their program because they're going to find out information that then lends itself to change. So I think that's been a little bit of a struggle, is to understand that this is a process for organizational change, instead of just these outcomes that we do specifically with the people. And before, it was so much of it was based on the individual services that we were providing to people. So that's been kind of a stretch. And then some of it's just like, where are you keeping your data, and how are you keeping your data, and how are you compiling it and calculating it?
Right.
There's some of that kind of stuff going on. So, and then I noticed in 2023 funding proposals, the outcomes, it's as if this last year didn't happen at all for some, because the outcomes kind of went back to maybe similar to what they put in their funding proposals last year. So I think what happened was they were doing their funding proposals and just did the outcomes that they did last year, and forgot, like, oh yeah, we want percentages, we want effectiveness, we want efficiency, we want satisfaction. So that's something I think we'll be working on this fall, probably, as we're going through the process of deciding who we're going to fund or board does. I think
That's why we have another one scheduled for this Friday.
Yeah, we didn't make it through them all. We have 4 new ones.
yeah, we have a lot of good sessions.
I think it's about 28.
And then the ones that are struggling with that, you didn't quite do that format correctly, you send it back to them and some tips.
I think I would like to see that they work on that. That's what we did. We've done that before, but I think they have the understanding of it now. I think it's just sitting back and saying, remember that process we went through? So, yeah, I think they could do that. And then on the next page, I just have the number of people that are at each program. And I don't know if this data is coming out right. It comes to our billing cycles. So I look at ACE and I see like just a handful of people attending, and I know they have semesters of classes. And so I'm not sure why we're not getting a complete list maybe. And that just
Where's your data coming from?
comes from accounting, from Eris puts the number of the individuals that he's been sent. So I'm thinking that there's something with that.
Okay, cool. We can figure that out.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we'll be happy to share the data that can send us.
And
You know.
it-
Of course, it's only counting each person once,
mhm.
even though they go to multiple classes.
Yep.
So that may be part of what you're.
Yeah, I think, and I also think that maybe because we don't pay per individual for that program, that might be why.
Maybe they're not too worried about listing everybody.
That could be. Or maybe they're just listening to the new people that we've approved. I'm not sure. So I've got to do some work on that, but.
Happy to share that.
But I was really excited to see some of our other programs are increasing. When I switch this over, I go from the last quarter to this quarter. So I did see the increases in a lot of those programs. And then a few you don't have data on because we said we would buy vehicles for people and then they would do outcomes for these vehicles that they're going to use to take people out, and they can't take people out without the vehicles. So got an update on that, and we don't know when exactly they'll be here. Dot just let us know that they're still having issues with, yeah, so.
Next.
Next page. And so if we just look at one of the outcomes, this is just what you'll see. So this is Ability KC, their aging and life transition. And you'll see their logo there. That's how you know what agency it is. So if that's too hard to read, I can totally change that. But and then we just put the outcome, and this all is calculated because Kristen is the best person in the whole world and helped me fix this process for creating.
She has a stash.
The whole world.
The whole world. She deserves a crown. She just helped me set this where it's a table that I can just insert the data that they give to me, and it all comes up very beautifully. So you'll see some of these as you go through yours that might not have a blue line at all. And most of those are surveys. So they're going to complete a survey, and they haven't for the last 3 quarters, and it looks like they haven't done anything on the outcome, but the survey is going to be at the end of the year. So when you do look at that, now there are some that are struggling, but there's also some that I just need to have a conversation with them first before I make any predictions on why some are struggling in some areas, and if we can do some brainstorming to make some change for that. There was a few from Southeast that I think she had really big plans for her outcomes and lost a staff member. And so there's going to be some of those things that it's hard to, because you know how hard they work and what they've done for people there, but then their data doesn't always come out just because they've been losing some staff that were critical to the outcomes. So Transition Academy, I did want to just talk about them for a minute.
Are they in here? Do I need to fast forward?
At the end. Okay. And more, I got a summary of their activities. They've been going to schools in the Kansas City area to meet them and talk about their program. And their program will be taking people to a variety of places to see what is available after graduation. We'll take kids out on the bus trips that ETOS is so kindly donating the buses and drivers. But they also are going to do this Discovering Personal Genius, which is a way to really figure out what your passions are and how you can connect that to employment. So they're going to do a cohort of that, and they're also going to do a separate cohort that is entrepreneurship. So those families that think that they might want to support their kiddo in a small business, and she's going to work with them on that. So that's pretty exciting. And so she's going to work with those, I think it's up to 7 schools now. They expect to get maybe 40 to 60 students for the coming year. This last year was a startup year, so they've got a handful of kids that they helped get summer jobs and did some transition stuff with, but for the most part, most of this was kind of set up and getting ready for the coming.
Did they get their contract worked out with the school board?
So my understanding was that that the superintendent was asked by the board to fix it, to get it, to work out that relationship between the transition academy and the new special ed director, that maybe just some misunderstandings about what the program was there for. There should be a program that's helpful, like helps the special ed department.
Right.
So it was exciting to see that they really are doing some things behind the scenes to get folks going. And I guess they're still covering Propel a little bit. Some of the people who finished Propel's program that are out there, that they're helping them find jobs or still helping them, referring them to VR. So it was nice that they picked up that little piece, because those are the same students that she would have supported if she had this program before. They all came from the inner city schools for the most part. That was nice to know.
Norman?
Norman. He is somebody that has my heart. I met with him. We had this 6-month cohort thing that we were doing, learning about customized employment. And he was one of our guys. So he lives at CBD, and COVID happened. And so the only conversation I got to have with him, and this was like 2 years ago, was on a call about what kind of jobs he might like, and just learn a little bit about him. And at the time he was working in the workshop. He could do a variety of tasks, but he loved to talk, and he could get distracted very easily. But they decided when they got funding for their customized employment program from us. Is this Transition Academy?
No.
Job One, I'm sorry, I went to Job One, I can tell you where. So Norman was working at Job One. And so Job One is now working with him through their customized program that we fund. That started in January, and he is at Christian Brothers. He always has loved cars, and he is one of the guys there. He is so a part of them. He has his own tasks that he does, and then he helps out on other things. So they got him a birthday cake. I think you can see that up there. They all just love hanging around him, and like he's really part of it. Yeah, when Job One goes in, they really feel like he's got all that support around him. And so they were struggling with keeping on task, and so they looked at adaptive equipment and got an iPad, and the iPad is working beautifully. He just looks at his little list of what he needs to do, and it's keeping him on track. He feels like he's got a way
It's like regular mechanics do.
Exactly, yeah, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really exciting that he went through that process, kind of got stalled because of COVID, but then they jumped right in again when they could, and got him doing something that he loved. And one thing that they said that kind of touched me was that his dad was kind of like, we should just work at the workshop, I don't know why we need to do all this stuff, because they were doing a discovery and taking him out and trying things. And his dad just kept going, yeah, I don't think it's that important. Well, he's got a job. And now his dad is just like thrilled about this, because he sees how much he belongs. So yeah, it's really
making a decent wage.
Yeah. I think parents they don't always have those chances to see that their kids can do something pretty incredible if the right people are around them, right, and supporting them. So yeah.
Very good.
I've been impressed with their program so far. That's probably all. Unless there's any questions.
Okay. As part of our presentation, we want to make sure we're sharing with you all of our objectives for our business objectives, as well as our service objectives. So Tom is maybe going to help us out with these.
Yeah, I think there are 3 slides there for our business objectives, and those numbers are all derived from financial statements that you've already seen. So not gonna belabor this, but, the first business objective, is a support coordination revenue business objective based on our budget. And this gives you numbers through August. We're 61% of the budget through 67% of the year. So we're not going to make this goal. The most important thing for you to learn about this goal is that I picked the wrong goal. We seriously, we should have used the excess of revenues over expenses as the goal, so that if the activity is heavier than we expect, the revenue may be more than the goal that we originally set, but the expenses would also be more. And what's important to our business operations is not the absolute value of one of those numbers, but the difference between the net. So next year, we'll look at support coordination revenue minus support coordination expenses as that goal.
And just to allay any fears, our revenue is exceeding expenses in support coordination.
Okay. The net is in fact more than what we budgeted for the net to be.
But as a function of the economy, we're down 12 positions. So we're not paying for them, but they're not billing.
So the budget has the full team 8 built into it. And we realized earlier this year that wasn't going to happen. We couldn't build the full team. So our revenue isn't as high, but our expenses aren't as high. Next.
Go ahead to the next one. So the 61% on this one is a good thing because it's an operating expense goal. We want to stay under the goal. And I have adjusted that goal number as you have amended the budget for operating expenses. So our goal is to stay under the budget for operating expenses. And through August, so through 67% of the year, we're at 61% of the budget. I suspect we'll get closer to the number by the end, assuming we can get and pay for those agency vehicles. That'll be a chunk that gets added to the operating expenses. But I think we're in good shape and we'll still be under budget at the end of the year. And then the third business goal here is we want to make sure our administration and operating expenses stay under 12.5% of the total operating expenses. And through August, we're at 12.2%, so we're just under that. And I expect that number will probably go down over the last 4 months, because those agency vehicles are going to increase the denominator of that fraction, and they're not administrative expenses, they're program expenses. So I think we're in strong position on that one as well. That is an excellent question. It had more to do with lower total expenses than it did with higher administrative expenses. Sometimes in January, we just we have a little trouble getting going at the beginning of the year, and we'll hold open the books to put things in December so they're in the right month for the audit. So it's more of a function of the accounting process than.
We'll move on to community outreach unless there's questions. Okay, Melinda.
All right, thank you, Amanda. So I just wanted to first off start out with talking about the changes that happened in Q3 with our department. The community outreach specialist had resigned at the beginning of the quarter, and we hired a new community outreach specialist, Juanita Robertson, at the end. And then we also added the community health resource specialist position. That is a grant funded position. It's going to be looking obviously at health related issues and following people with their health related issues. So Jasmine McCrary, our autism resources specialist, moved into that position. And Jenny Kaler from TCM moved into our autism resources specialist position. So there were a lot of changes in Q3 with our department, but I'm happy to say that services weren't interrupted, that we were still able to provide a lot of good quality services. So if you can go to the next slide.
I thought I just did. Oh, it's because my cursor's in the wrong place. Here.
All right, so so for people that we served, we had 38 new referrals, approximately the same number that we have for quarters 1 and 2. I'm happy to say that we completed 36 new intakes, and I'm happy to say that because I was
the one doing it.
exactly. I covered the that duty, so I'm happy that we were able to contact so many people and set up services. So the average number of people supported was 125. And a little interesting fact, this is double approximately what we were supporting last year at this time.
Wow.
So COVID really affected the number of referrals that we were receiving. And so approximately we were supporting approximately 50-something people last year at this time. So I'm happy to see that the numbers are back to typical. The number of information and referral calls was approximately the same as quarters 1 and 2. The most requested resource information was emergency assistance, benefits guidance, and connecting with support coordination, which I thought was interesting because they're all related to funding or to financial assistance supports, which I think, goes with the times right now. The new referrals to community resources was approximately the same as quarters 1 and 2. And then I also included the request for resource information from TCM, that was 29. I wanted to include that information just to talk about, or just to show how many people were reaching outside of the community outreach department, and then also how many people were reaching in the community. So if you go on to the next slide. So Medicaid eligibility and benefits planning. So the number of people who obtained Medicaid pretty much doubled actually from quarter 2. So it looks like Family Support Division is getting back to processing applications in a more timely fashion. And then the referrals to benefits planning and assistance was 84, and that was a lot higher actually than quarters 1 and 2. Quarter 1 it was 57, and quarter 2 was 69. So also with the changes with the community outreach specialist position, the community outreach specialist position is now going to be assisting with Medicaid applications. So I think that is really positive with the amount of people we're getting that are wanting to have assistance with the Medicaid application, and then also benefits planning and assistance. And so with SB 40 funded supports, that's also another change with the community outreach specialist position. This information is just for July, because the enhancement team started processing SB 40 funded supports in August. And so they'll be tracking that information. And so this is for July. The community outreach specialist is still going to process or confirm SB 40 funding eligibility for funding requests that we get from the community. And then also camp scholarships and transportation. And then we're working with agency relations to confirm eligibility for the agencies that we provide funding to. And then again, for the objectives, we hit the target for all of our objectives, which was really exciting. Because again, there were so many changes, and so it was good to see that our quality of services were maintained. So yeah, so that was good.
Sorry, I'm rushing. I apologize.
No, it's okay. That's really actually just what I wanted to say about our objectives. And so that, yeah, if you can go to the last one. So we represented ETOS at one event, that was the Midwest Ability Summit. I wanted to mention it though, because there was a huge attendance at it, and Lori Purdue, our peer resource specialist, represented ETOS at it. And she said that there were over 100 people that stopped by the ETOS table. I also, on a personal note, had represented, I'm on the board of the Spina Bifida Kansas City chapter. And so I, on my own, represented the Spina Bifida Kansas City chapter, but I was also able to talk about ETOS supports and services to some people that had stopped by our table as well. So good attendance, got a lot of good information out for it. So that was good. So that is it, unless anybody has any questions or anything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.
All right, thank you.
Good evening,
Okay,
everyone.
Roger. Yep, there you go.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to start off with the photograph that Dan provided us on our cover here. This is one of our new minibuses. This is a 2022 Chevy G3500. It's a 12x2. It's a rear loading vehicle. It's considered a minibus because it's approximately 3.5 feet shorter than the standard buses that we have now. It looks a little bigger in this picture because I actually expanded it, but it's quite a vehicle. We're happy to have it. It's a new product. It's a Chevy rather than a Ford. It was what we were able to obtain, and we have 3 of these on site. Next slide, please. So during this quarter, we had total one-way trips. So total one-way trips, I wanted to give you a comparison to the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter. And as you can see there, between those 3, there continues to be an increase in total one-way trips that we're completing quarterly. We anticipate that going into this fourth quarter is going to be a little bit slower. We're not going to have as many trips. That's usually due to the winter months coming ahead, holiday season. A lot of people are taking time off and going on vacations or going out of town. So we anticipate that number is going to be just around 2,100 or so trips, but that's we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. We currently have 14 transportation requests that are currently on our wait list. We had 16 new requests in the third quarter. We were able to place 7. And that, along with the 7 that we had still on the wait list, and that number is now up to 14. Personnel-wise, we were able to hire a new driver. We actually hired 3. Unfortunately, of the 3, 1 failed a drug screening and the other never returned our calls. They, for whatever reason, didn't follow up with their recertification or getting that process done. And so we elected to just pull our offer away after I think 2 or 3, almost 3 weeks had passed, and there was no return, no call, no information from this individual. So we pulled that offer back. However, we were excited to hire Don Hills He joined our team on September 23rd. He comes to us with over 15 years of paratransit experience and working with individuals with developmental disabilities. So we're extremely excited to have him. He's been an awesome addition to our team, and he's just doing an outstanding job. We currently have 6 positions that are open. We have 3 route driver positions that we're trying to fill. We have 2 spare driver positions that we would like to get filled, and we have the 1 driver supervisor. We do have 2 candidates or 2 applicants internally that applied for that position. But so far we haven't had any external requests. Next slide, please. Operations. So regarding safety, we took a look at what we were doing safety wise, and we completed during this quarter 144 random reviews. Of those 144, we only had 2 that were scored at a 3 or above. And just to explain what the scoring process is, a 1 means that there was nothing observed, that everything was perfect. A 2 is little minor things like not using a turn signal, or not coming to a complete stop, maybe what we call a California roll, where you don't come to a complete stop at a stop sign, but it was good enough, but it needs to be better. A 3 or above is 3s are things that are typically repetitive, like not using your turn signal or not, stopping at a stop sign completely. And above that, of course, is a 4, and those are brought directly to me. And then we observe them and decide what has to happen. Unfortunately, we lost a driver due to an incident regarding one of our passengers, but that was difficult for us to see and deal with, but we moved forward from there. As far as the months of July, August, and September, I'm happy to report we were accident free, no accidents whatsoever in July, August, or September. We're hoping to keep that trend going into the final part of the year, into the home stretch, and hopefully into next year. Training, we completed several trainings during safety week. We did fire extinguisher training, hazmat, hazardous materials, wheelchair tie down, which is something we do annually. It's just a refresher to ensure that drivers are completing that process correctly. Lift training and distracted driving. As far as maintenance for this quarter, maintenance completed a total of 214 service requests. Of those, 170 were ETOS vehicles and 44 were outside agencies. Maintenance is running into a situation right now where we're finding it difficult, or we're having a hard time finding replacement parts. And it's just a disruption in the supply chain. There are a number of possible reasons why it's happening, but we're working on I don't want to use the word stockpile, but we're trying to get our hands on as many parts as we can that we're
building inventory.
I'm sorry.
We're building inventory.
We are, yeah, exactly. We're building inventory. So these are routine parts that we use all the time: brake pads, alternators, things like that we can, oil filters, things of that nature that we use routinely. And we want to be able to keep those in-house in case things start to get a little rougher as time goes on. As we bring in our new vehicles, and we'll get to that in the next slide, but as we get into the new vehicles, the thought was now, traditionally we would go and auction those vehicles off and recover or recoup whatever funding we could, or a reimbursement for those. But now what we're going to do is kind of hold on to them a little longer to see if we have to use them for parts. I don't want to turn Dot into a service yard or a scrap yard by any means, but it might be a measure that we're going to have to take just to ensure that we have parts available to us. So I don't think it's going to be out of the norm to have maybe 2 or 3 vehicles sitting back there that we've taken out of rotation, but we may have to use them for parts. Maintenance is preparing for the winter months. Typical stuff is radiator flushes, again, oil changes, brake pads, new brakes. I think they do one other service, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what that was, but it was something that's done. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a brake fluid flush that's done prior to winter. As I stated earlier, we got new vehicles that are prepped for service. Next slide. And you'll see that's part of my update. So we have 5 new vehicles on site that are being prepped for service. We have the 3 minibuses that the slide I showed you earlier. The only thing we're waiting on there is we're waiting on cables from a supplier for the audio or the video and audio surveillance and tracking. They all tie into the same system. So we're waiting on cabling for that to get here so that we can finish those up. We anticipate those being here by the end of the week. The other thing is we're waiting on. We have decals in house, but we're going to have to put an order in for some new decals. So we might have 1 or 2 vehicles out there without ETOS decals on them. But I got a bid today, and I'm getting ready to send that to Tom. So be aware, Tom, it's coming. We have 2 Ford Transit.
The ones that the ones that the decals are on look really nice.
They do.
12 and 2s that I saw look really nice, those decals.
Well, so in adding to that, we have the 2 Ford Transits that we got at a pretty reasonable price. And so what we thought, I guess initially the thought was we were going to get the Oxford White, the typical vehicle that we always get. But it turns out we got 1 dark blue and one silver. But once they got them here, and after speaking to the representative from Masters, it was like, I could take these back, but it's going to be another 6 months before I can get anything to you. So we thought, no, let's just go with it. They look great. We put a decal on one of the blue ones, and it really stood out. It really looked fantastic. So we're excited to have the 2 Transits here as well. They're really gonna fit in and help us with our fleet. I don't have a picture of those for you, and I'm very sorry. I thought maybe I had one in our files, and we don't. Joe has one, but I didn't have it, so I apologize for that. There's an update on our 5310 from the previous cycle, the 2019-2020. We were able to secure the sole source procurement that we were working on to get those vehicles to avoid a bid process. That's been finalized and completed. I was working with Larry Williams at KCATA. It's in the final stages, and what I mean by that is, well, the only thing that's left for them to do is it goes to the board, KCATA board, on the 28th of this month for review and approval. Larry assured me, or he's given me his verbal assurance that there shouldn't be any issues, and it should go right through. But we'll know exactly on the 28th what happens. But I'm confident that that'll go through, and our hope is that we'll be able to acquire those 5 new minibuses from our vendor in Indiana by the end of the year. The 2021-2022 53 call for projects application was approved. The total amount of the project is $626,060. The awarded amount to us was $521,717 plus our 20% match. Well, so when you add our match of $104,000, that brings it up to $626,60. Unfortunately, The E450s that I requested will probably not be available. My understanding is that Ford is, for whatever reason, has stopped building that chassis, at least for now. There are chassis out in that are available for purchase, but they're really hard to get a hold of, and chances are they've probably already been sold. So at any rate, we're probably looking at for 2021, 2022 for that next cycle. We're probably going to be looking at minibuses again, which is fine. They'll serve our purpose, and we may have to settle for some transits. But I think at this point, getting whatever we can that's new is really going to help us out. There's new transportation rates, new CMS approved transportation rates that took effect actually on 10/1. New rates are grouped by the new zones are defined in groups of 10. So if you go to the next slide, I'll show you what that means.
Yeah. Right there.
So what you're looking at is there's two graphs here on the left. The left is the new transportation zones. So they're grouped in miles. So there's three zones. There's zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3, and they're defined by ambulatory or non-ambulatory. And zone 1 is any trip that's between 0 and 10 miles, and that's a flat fee. So for instance, an ambulatory zone 1 trip will produce or generate $11.63 in compensation. If you go down, as you go down the list, you'll see that ambulatory 10 mile to 20 mile zone, that's zone 2, that's a $21 compensation. As you get down to zone 2, zone 3, it's 20 miles or plus. We have some passengers that are 30 miles or 35 miles out. So, I mean, unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate, but we're not, our compensation rate's going to go down for some of those passengers. As you look at the old rate, we were, everything was billed per zone, 1 mile equal to zone, and it had a flat rate. If on the right side is a billing comparison. So what we did is we went back to the first quarter this year, second quarter, and the third quarter. And what we did is we entered the new billing zone and compared it to the old billing structure. And what we found out was that they're not really that far off. Total billing, for instance, in the first quarter under the old structure was $321,000. I'm going blind here. I apologize. $321,373. Where on the new rate, it's at $319,490. So there's not that much of a difference there. When you look down at the third quarter, it actually works in our favor as far as total billing is concerned. How that translates into Medicaid dollars, I don't, I didn't want to put that comparison out there. I wanted to give you the entire billing as a whole, but I can definitely do that if that's something that's required or needed. Next slide, please.
I think Tom has something to.
Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I've been playing with this, that during a transition period over the next 2 or 3 months at least, they're going to let us pick whether we want to bill at the old rate or the new rate, and we can pick by individual. So we can go through, and if the new rate's more, we can do the new rate, and if the old rate's more, we can use the old rate. We just have to declare right now which one we're going to do for each person. So I'm playing that game with the spreadsheet right now to try and sort through that. But you can see, the new zone that's the zone 1 that's 0 to 10. You can see if we have somebody who's 1 mile, we're transporting them 1 mile. We've been only getting $1.86 per trip for that person. We can get $11.63 for them. Yeah, but if we've been transporting them 10 miles, we've been getting $18.60 for them and we can only bill 1163. So, eventually we're gonna have to do the new rates on everybody. And then I think Roger's analysis there is probably accurate. There's just not gonna be much difference net. We're gonna get a lot more for some people, a lot less for some people, and pretty much the same for some people.
And in November, there's a stakeholder meeting that the division is hosting where we can give feedback and hear what other people have to say about the new rates. Transportation is just one of many new rates coming in through a rate standardization process. So, all right, next slide, Roger, I got you.
Yes, employee focus. Did we do employee focus? Yes, no, not yet. So, what we're doing employee focus, this is a new slide I added. I just wanted to kind of give some insight as to how we're working with employees, and when I mean employees is DOT staff as a whole. So what we're starting to do is we're going to have monthly team building exercises. We want to help promote unity and our ethos values. We're going to do that on a monthly basis, and I'm working and collaborating with Claudette Price on putting activities together on these monthly meetings so that we can interact and join that become part of that process. So we're excited about doing that. We also created a DOT safety and advisory committee to meet monthly. What we're wanting to do is there are some safety issues that we want to provide a venue for drivers to relate any safety issues, things that they might not be able to report on whip around that are actually vehicle related, but anything from this intersection at such and such street is not, it's not a safe place, or there are certain areas of town that during the winter drivers just aren't comfortable going to, and it can be anything from safety to any suggestions that drivers might have. I have staff here that are just not comfortable with raising their hand in a meeting or speaking to supervisors or anyone directly. So I think this provides them a venue, or at least an avenue, to express any concerns or needs that they might have. So we're excited about doing that. Our hope is that we're going to have our first safety and advisory committee meeting on November 15th. And then we'll take whatever the suggestions or questions or concerns that were discussed there and address them at our monthly meeting at the end of the month. We put together a football challenge. So we're calling it the You Pick 'em Challenge. And this will run until the end of the year, until the end of the football season. It's going to include a Super Bowl. Basically, drivers, not drivers, but DOT staff as a whole are invited to pick their winners. They'll get a weekly pick 'em sheet. They'll pick the winner, the winning football team for that day, for that week, and then we'll have a rolling or a accumulated total that we'll post up every week. I promised the winner that whoever wins, that I would buy them lunch, as long as the place had a drive-through. But I'm a humble individual. I don't have a lot of money, but I will buy them lunch. So we've had a lot of response, a lot of positive feedback on it. A lot of people are getting involved with it, so we're excited about it. It's been a big hit, I think. The holidays are coming up. You want to start up or get a holiday food drive going. Contacted harvesters. We're trying to get them to drop off a receptacle down here as that we can place it in the lobby. And that's another way we can get staff involved in a common drive, to help families that are in need. There's going to be a lot of, and it's just in time for the holiday season. So we're hoping to get a lot of response and feedback there, and hopefully we can help some families out. Next slide, please. So I'm sorry.
I just wanted to encourage you to provide a quick summary of your objectives, because we still got a few more folks to go.
Sorry, I sure will.
No, you're good. You're good. You told us the fun stuff.
So our third quarter objectives, we wanted to, maximize the number of drivers demonstrating competence in the area of safety. As you can see there, I placed all 3 quarters. We wanted to score staff that scored a higher, 80% or higher on their safety related trainings and testing.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Just maximize the other effectiveness is maximize vehicle availability and roadworthiness. Again, we're wanting 95% of the issues reported, maintained, reported to maintenance, addressed and repaired within 15 days. That used to be 30. We dropped it to 15, and we're still hitting 100%. So they're doing a great job there.
Yeah, that's great.
Next slide. Maximize safety, reduce accidents and unsafe driving behaviors. This is done through our random reviews and whatever call-ins that we get. We want to be 90% accident and incident free within a 30-day period. We hit that for the exception of the second quarter. June was really rough on us. We had, I believe, 3 or 4 accidents. We had 4. I believe 2 of those were our fault, and then we had some other things going there. But we bounced back in the third quarter. Very proud of our guys doing that. Transportation request process within the first 20 days, we dropped that from 30 down to 20, and being received. Goals 95%. We're hitting 100% across the board. And I think that's all I have.
Questions?
Been busy, Roger.
Yep, you've been busy. All right.
Looking forward to seeing those new vehicles out on the road.
Woo-hoo.
I am too. I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Shannon.
I'm here.
Hi,
I
Shannon.
really dislike, can we change up the order? I dislike going after Roger.
He has all kinds of cool, he gets to show new cars.
I know, I cannot come up with any fantastic new vehicles or anything like that. So to begin, I've collected several stories, so I'm super excited that we have amazing things going on through the support coordination department. And it was actually pretty hard to select just 2 to share. But you can see we have Danny's story, as well as Kyle's stories. Very similar in the aspect that they both resided in their natural home. And due to differences of their situations, it became an emergency situation for the SC supporting them. And if you're aware of the emergency situations and anything going on through the state of Missouri, we have, I believe the last number I heard was 600 types of emergencies through the state of trying to get individuals into support services or just finding any type of service to assist them. So Danny's story, Megan Berzer is the SC that supports him. He was new to Megan, residing with his father. Father was doing the best he possibly could with him and his son. The living situation and conditions were less than favorable for everyone involved. However, the diligence and constant advocacy of our support coordinator, working with all of the entities that we have to cross team and partner with, eventually Danny received some critical status assessments that were needed. And we had one provider thankfully willing to support and try to provide services to Danny. Ultimately, it was a highly successful situation. We have Danny's father continually giving feedback, stating that this is the best thing that could have ever happened for Danny, and that how very happy he is that the care is provided and how well Danny's doing with. Unfortunately, with the mask, you can't see the smile, but there's a gigantic smile behind that mask of how happy he is. And the things that he's experiencing are new for him. And it's just a very impactful situation that went from not so great to a very impactful and successful story for Danny. Most of the time when
Nope,
individuals, nope, you're good. I'm jumping to Kyle, but most of the time when individuals are in crisis, we're supporting the individuals with high medical and high behavioral. So most providers aren't suited, trained, have enough staff to deal with and provide both the intense level of behaviors as well as the medical need behind it. Kyle's story, highly involved family. He was residing at home as well. They just really were doing the best they could. And unfortunately, some of the challenges that were presented with Kyle were the severe behaviors, and it started tearing the family apart. So their family dynamic was being just really pulled to just all ends. They were feeling as if there was no help. When your family's crumbling, that means there's just so much that you feel defeated with no support. So Kim Abbott, a support coordinator for Team 7, when she was introduced to Kyle and the family, she just noticed that the care and love that they were giving, and the fear of letting go, to say, yes, we need some assistance, is a very huge thing. And it's unfortunately more often for our support coordinators than not. So Kim just dug right in, wasn't going to be one that was told, no, he can't do this. He's not going to be able to, we aren't going to be able to get the critical status that we need. And thankfully the family continually supported and worked together. Ultimately, throughout the very long process, he too received supports through a local provider. The fear of his seizures going out of control, his behaviors amplifying more than what they were at his house, all within, I would say, months. There was 0 seizures, no behaviors. He has friends. He's getting out into the community. He's experiencing so many more things that he hadn't prior. The most impactful piece of both of these, I mentioned it with Danny's, is the response we're getting from the families. So you can see, I tried to make it a little bit bigger. At the very bottom, you can see that Kim is Kyle's mom as well. So I apologize for the 2 Kims. Kim wrote our support coordinator, Kim, and said, you can read it, just how thankful she is from the bottom of her heart. What a blessing it is, and to see her son happy and thriving, with all of the fears that have just been diminished. So those are just 2 very impactful stories of many.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, when Shannon was telling me about these 2 stories, she's like, these sound like they're stories that would just happen once every 3 years or so, but it's really nowadays very common that you're having to really help people out that much. All right, so we have some updates and then performance objectives.
Yeah, quick updates. For the third quarter, we were on average supporting 1,694 individuals. We've had movement through the past quarter, and you can see the totals there. We changed the visual of it to show that the number of new SCs, or your light blue, and then the number of SCs who left. Regardless, doesn't matter if they left ETOS as a whole or if they transferred to another department for a better fit. So you'll see the difference. That's why the slides look or the columns look a little different. So when we were reporting that we were up 9, 10, 12, we're right back down to 12 openings and everything else. So lots of changes occurring. And in addition to that, with the numbers that are up and down, what you don't see and what is not reported is some of the temporary coverages going on for those individuals, for the SCs on FMLA. So with the loss of staff, we still have an additional 3 staff that we have been covering on a temporary basis, making caseloads a little bit higher than usual. Next slide. Oh, objectives.
Yep.
So in summary, what I would like to say and summarize is basically with all the changes that have been going and occurring, I'm pleased to see that we are running steady. We're just right there running. There's not a huge jump on any of the objectives. So we're still holding strong, still running, just as equal as we possibly could. If you'd go to the next slide, Amanda. The ones in the service access category, it's on my left. The one outcome and objective that we're really going to dig into, and most likely it's going to change. I just don't want to change it mid-year or towards the end of the year, is the 30 days for eligibility that we have a plan written. We actually, from COD, we have 60 days to have the plan implemented. We're measuring, right now we're measuring the 30 days that the plan meeting has occurred. So your initial meeting versus a 60-day plan writing. So the difference of the outcome and an objective was very obvious once I looked at the data and was like, oh, we need to dig into that one. So you'll see that one updated in the next year. Other than that, I'm very pleased with all the changes. Most times, not sometimes, we see some people not satisfied because of the changes. What I am pleased to see is that last quarter, we had 100% of people for the 2 items that we measure, that 100% satisfaction for our attentiveness or responsiveness, and that our SEs are advocating for the person.
Sorry,
So
satisfaction's awesome.
yeah, but it's still holding strong. With changes, obviously with constant movement or growth or temporary coverage, higher caseloads, we are going to see some of the ups and downs. I foresee maybe some quality things that we're going to be reviewing and looking at in the next quarter. If we recall, Team 3 had a supervisor opening. As of August, Ashley Gertch, who was our due process coordinator specialist, she began her role as a support coordinator supervisor for Team 3. Year to date, 86% of our SCs are hitting their minimum logging target. We're still running very well with our return rate from our Medicaid billing at 95.4. And as earlier Amanda mentioned, that we are still, TCM's revenue is exceeding our expenses. Sorry if I talked way too fast, but I'm trying.
No, you did great. Thank you, Shannon. Do you have any questions?
What is the target? The logging target.
75% of your time. So
time needs to be direct.
direct, yeah, with and for people. So some months it's 120, 124, some months it's not. It just depends on days worked and you took vacation. Which seems to have really made a difference.
Thank you, Shannon. Hard work as usual.
Thank you.
Hey, last but not least.
I know, I always get to be the last one. I have to follow Roger and Shannon, and I never have fancy fun stories. So maybe next time I'll have something fun to share with you. But we in training this last quarter, we have done a lot. You can go ahead, Amanda, and do the first one. The whole training team got together and came up with what our why is. Why are we continuing to do this, and what is our goal for training in general? And this is what we came up with. And I encouraged all of the training team members to keep this handy, to always remember when things even get crazy and busy and tough, which happens often because we're always very busy, to keep this in mind, because we want to make an impact and to improve lives. In the end, it's all about improving lives. So of course, our providers continue to love all of our instructors. I want to point out the last one. They like her personality, made us comfortable, and kept the overnight staff awake. So I figured that's a positive when the instructors are keeping overnight staff awake for things like med-surg class.
No doubt.
Yes, I can attest to that. They great.
Yeah, so we have new instructors that started this quarter, and so that is even better. We don't have a whole lot of change in what trainings we're currently offering. We did throw in trauma awareness training. I think Amanda mentioned it last quarter. We did our first one in September. It went really well. We're going to continue to do that every quarter. And then of course, hopefully our future offerings will get our list will get longer as we move forward. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yep. Should have gone. Not this one.
No. Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, sorry. I was looking at the other one. Our attendance has gone down. That is simply because we had lost a few instructors, and we had to end up canceling a few classes. So it really had nothing to do with attendance rates, because our classes that we had available were full most of the time. And approximately there's a 77% attendance rate versus who's enrolled. So that's consistent. Mostly with the last few quarters. Hopefully this next quarter, it'll go back up. And as we are continuing to add trainings for providers, we're still working on trainings for individuals and families. The first one is going to be in November. Hopefully I'll be able to report on that next quarter as a super success. The intended topic is ABLE accounts and future planning. I wanted to make sure you guys had that date too, because like I said, it's for all individuals who are supported or have a disability in their families, and it's supposed to be super informative. Our field trainers currently have 3 field trainers. They are as busy as they have been all year. We are going to be adjusting their target goal for time spent with SCs because they continue to blow that target out of the water. All year, they've spent an average of 80% with their directly supporting SCs, whereas the target's only 65. So next year, we're going to up that and give them a little bit more to strive for. And to piggyback off what Shannon said, as far as plan writing and loggable and billable time, let me go back. Plan writing. Our goal is to help new support coordinators within their first year write plans at an 87% ISP score. And the average score as of right now is 91. So the new SCs, the information that they're getting trained is sticking, at least within that first year, and they're able to write pretty darn good plans. I am going to be adjusting the loggable billable time percentages as well. Our current goal was 90% accuracy by the time they hit 90 days. That is obviously a way lofty goal. There's too many external factors for SCs to be able to be successful at a 90% at 90 days. So we're going to look at that a little bit closer. Brand new information for this quarter is the knowledge checks. We started them before, and I wanted to show you a solid set of scores on what those averages were. This is a measure of whether the information that training has provided to support coordination has been effective enough that they can retain that information, averaging approximately 90% over both quarters. The blue one are individual scores. I put those there to show that there's a correlation between that and this slide here. We also started our benchmarks, and last quarter I adjusted them to be a Likert scale, remember? And so we can actually get a percentage now, and the percentage of the 90-day benchmark scores averaging is about 90%. And so if you can see from the previous slide to this one, those two with the lower ones, there's a correlation between their ability to retain the information and their ability to apply the information. And those two, we've been able to identify those a lot sooner than we potentially could have before because of these. And those two individuals have a lot of support around them to help improve their ability to retain and do the job well. And then our workforce objectives, all employees receive competency-based training within 60 days from the date of assign. That is been consistent with quarters. So people are doing what they're supposed to do in a timely manner for the most part. We are only expecting 95%, and we're 95 and 98% respectively. New employees, this one is to complete all position-based training within 90 days of hire. Our goal is 90%, and this is 78 or 89% for this last quarter. This percentage we might be looking differently at next quarter, depending on what Q4 brings, because there's lots of extraneous factors in play as to whether or not people can actually do all of the things that are position-based within the first 90 days, because things don't come up sometimes. And then the new SC completes orientation within 30 days. That's a contractual thing. And for third quarter, 100% of all the new SCs were able to do that. The only hiccup, if you look at compared to first quarter, is there was one person in first quarter that was hired during that quarter that was unable to make it within 30 days to an orientation, but she got it within like 45 days or something. So it was there's always an outlier, and that was the outlier there. So overall, we're seeing a huge impact in how we're doing training on the success of the SCs and how the current SCs are continuing to improve, but with Shannon's numbers, it increasing and maintaining and such. So that's all I got. Do you have any questions? I hope I didn't talk too fast.
No, I'll just stopping the share, so.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lindy.
Thank you.
So is that all for our presentations?
I believe so, yes.
Very good. Sounds like everybody is working hard as usual. Much appreciated. Any new business?
Thank you all.
Do we have any old business? All right.
Just that,
Roger and Jake talking back and forth. Jake had asked how many buses, and Roger responded to him.
All right, then. Is there any public comment?
I'd just like to say congratulations for another great quarter. It's great to see us being able to set good outcomes and measure those and reach them. And hopefully we'll be able to do that as we're working closer with the providers in the future too. So congratulations, all. Good job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Rogers cardigan there.
I love it.
And I appreciate that we continue to meet those goals and objectives, even with decreased staff and constantly throwing new things into the picture.
Yeah.
So thank you all. If there is no other public comment, if I can have a motion to adjourn. George and Susan, all those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, we'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all again.